More Mr. and Mrs. Green by Keith Baker. At the park. I won, said Mr. Green. First to the fountain. He did a little victory dance. Mrs. Green was not racing. She was standing in the middle of an emerald garden. He was racing by himself. Look, 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 she said. So many butterflies, graceful swallowtails, magnificent monarchs, and glorious painted ladies. They're dazzling. Mr. Green was not looking. He was walking across the monkey bars on his hands. Watch this. Mr. Green did a double backflip onto the grass. A perfect 10, he said. Mrs. Green was not watching. They're not paying attention to each other. She was listening to the birds. So many songs, said Mrs. Green. Robins warbling, sparrows chirping, chickadees peeping. It's like a symphony. Mr. Green was not listening. He was swimming back and forth across the wading pool 77 times. A new world record, said Mr. Green. He raised his arms in triumph. Mrs. Green did not see him. Her nose was in the flowers. Ah, she said, the sweet lilies, the spicy daisies, perfumey roses, they smell good enough to... Mrs. Green stopped. She heard a sound. She listened closely. Mr. Green stopped. He heard the same sound. It was one of their favorite sounds. Better than a cuckoo clock. Better than a train whistle. Even better than a marching band. It was... Ding-a-ling, ding, ding, ding. The bell was an ice cream truck. Mrs. Green looked at Mr. Green. First one there is the winner, she said. Ready, set, go. They took off in a flash. Mr. Green's stride was long for an alligator. He pulled ahead. Mrs. Green veered to the left. She had a plan. Mr. Green ran under the rings, around the merry-go-round, through the frog pond, over the footbridge, and down the final stretch. But look at Mrs. Green. Uh-oh, who's going to win? But Mrs. Green was already there. She had taken the secret shortcut. I got chocolate bucko bammo bars, she said, with nuts. Yum, said Mr. Green, my favorite. Mrs. Green ate her bar slowly, in 97 licks and 33 nibbles. Mr. Green ate his bar quickly in 6 big sloppy bites. He finished first, but it was not a race. Mr. Green was still hungry. So was Mrs. Green. Let's go home and make spaghetti, he said. With mashed potatoes, she said. Mrs. Green took Mr. Green's hand, and on the way home she said, we might see a purple-spotted dragonfly. Or perhaps, said Mr. Green, another ice cream truck. The end.